Montreal, the everyday and the extraordinary. The Elias Makos Show on CJAD 800.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Makos Show in the third hour of the program. There's a new social media platform launching this week, but it's different from the others. It's called Gander, and the creators of the platform have an ambitious goal to provide a Canadian-owned alternative to the major U.S.-based platforms. So could you replace your X, your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, and the like with Gander, with a Canadian option? It's built around the idea of data sovereignty. The platform says it will store users' data on Canadian servers. It will avoid selling personal information. It will verify users to reduce bots, and it will moderate content using principles rooted in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Let's head over to Ben Waldman, co-founder and CEO of Gander. Ben, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, but color me skeptical on this one because, I've tried all of these new platforms. Oh, you should get on this one and that one. I still regret opening up a Threads, for crying out loud. So tell me why I should take in a gander at Gander.
Yeah, sure. So the reason that you feel regret, and I think many people are feeling this, is you jump onto social media and more or less by the end of whatever it is you've done, you feel like you've been taken advantage of. Social media has just really become a very toxic space. And so Gander is built to flip things on its head, to make social media something that makes you smile. It's social media that isn't addictive. We're not doing the addictive algorithms, the extractive advertising, all of this stuff that has really turned social media into this space for outrage, and we're doing something different.
But it sounds like you're promising the impossible. Because, right? Because if you look at why other platforms have been successful they're a little addictive. And I know there's various levels of that, but you sort of need, to have some stickiness to make sure you have enough users in the first place to become a platform.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think back to when social media really first started taking off, it was really about connection, and that's where the stickiness started. Where things pivoted was as soon as it became all about growth at all costs and making sure eyeballs and advertising were king. That's when things really started to change, and it's where you started to see a lot of the science around, okay, well, we know that people will stay here if they're mad. We know that they'll stay here if we play with their dopamine. We know, and so we're not trying to compete with that at all. And sure, we don't have the expectation that we'll take down the giants like, Facebook or TikTok, etc. We're offering a place that if you're tired of that,
but shouldn't you dream of that? Shouldn't you dream of taking down Facebook? Like, shouldn't you dream of, like, everyone says, oh yeah, I don't want to use Facebook anymore, I'm going to use Gander. Shouldn't that be the dream? I mean, sure, that would be fantastic. And to be clear, we're part the way that Gander works is it is built in Canada. It operates on a protocol that's actually international. So we're connected and will soon be completely interoperable with other platforms around the globe. And that's the space where the giants will be taken down. It's more of an overall movement than it is simply a new platform that competes solely on its own with the others. We're on the radio right now, so I need you to paint some pictures here for our listeners. What is Gander like? I mean, does it feel like Facebook? Does it feel like 50% Instagram, 50% X? Like, what does it feel like when you think of looks? Paint that picture for our listeners.
Well, the first thing that they can do is go to gandersocial.ca and they can sign up and see it themselves. But it's what we've done is it's not about reinventing the wheel in terms of what you can expect from the look of social media. It is I mean, it's beautiful if I do say so myself, but we've taken from parts of everything, the things that we feel that people are drawn to in various platforms. But really, it's more about the experience and what you can expect out of a platform like Gander than it is those others. It's really the difference of there being a great community. We don't celebrate likes, we celebrate conversation. It's not about vanity. We verify anybody who wants to post, comment, or chat, both to protect the community and protect kids.
How are you going to do that?
Also to keep out the bots.
Can I just ask you about the verification? So I understand if you've got 500 users, you can verify everyone and take your time. How do you verify, if let's say this thing goes crazy one day and 200,000 people sign up? How do you verify 200,000 people?
Yeah, well, so right now we've got roughly 25,000 people on there. We started off with 10,000 beta testers, which is already enormous for a beta test. And they all invited their friends and family. And then, yesterday we did our official launch and we saw a whole whack of people sign up. And so what we do is we have two methods currently of verification. One is verify with an institutional email. So if you're a university student or you're part of an association, that kind of thing, then you can verify using one of those emails, or you can verify using the Canada Post Identity Plus app, which is a secondary app. They check your ID. And they keep all that data. We don't get any information, just two signals. You're a human and you're an adult, and you're free to post or chat as long as you like. Or you can just sign up and not do those things and just browse.
The one thing, I sort of got chills as I read it when I introduced this segment, said moderate content using principles rooted in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. I didn't like reading that, to be very honest, Ben. I hope I misspoke is what I'm trying to say, because that seems to me like policing speech. And I know the government of Canada is passing laws that certainly seem like they also want to get on board this type of thing. What do you mean by that? Let's talk about how you're going to moderate content, because for a lot, you can do a lot of things under the guise of protecting rights and freedoms.
Yeah, so rights and freedoms are still our laws, and those other platforms are not actually respecting our current laws here in Canada. So
give me an example. Give me an example of that.
Well, we have in the U.S. you have the freedom of speech. Say or do anything you want. It doesn't really. If it's causing harm to a person, then that's their problem. Mm-hmm. In Canada, we have a freedom of expression where there are in fact consequences for hate speech, for that kind of behavior, and so we don't allow that on the platform.
Who's going to decide if it causes harm? Is it people in an office in your offices? Who decides if it's causing harm?
Who decides if it's it's the mere fact of using racist slurs, mm-hmm. of attacking someone based on their identity. Those are the parameters by which we decide that someone is in fact breaking our policies.
Okay, so but it's hard to find anyone to be like, I want a social media site that has racist slurs and that's allowed. So that's another thing. But I'm trying to get into the gray zones here, difficult conversations.
Have you been on X? Have you been on Facebook?
Yeah,
it is.
I have.
They do allow racist slurs all of the time. That is, in fact, how they make money is that kind of outrage.
Mm-hmm. So you're promising a better way where content moderation does not go off the deep end.
Yeah, where we in fact do not allow people to attack others and to troll one another based on identity or
Ben, I wish you the best of luck. I hope there's a way to do it. I think there's some other reasons why all of these platforms ended up down the paths they've gone, and I just wonder if it's human nature. Thank you for coming on today, and good luck. So anyone can go join right now. It's open to everyone.
Yeah, it's open to everyone. You can go to gandersocial.ca and you can sign up today.
And app stores on today right now.
Yeah, both on both app stores. Yeah, exactly. Both the Apple Store and at the Android.
All right, Ben. I encourage everyone to give Gander a gander, and we'll talk again, hopefully in the future.
Thanks so much.
That's Ben Waldman, co-founder and CEO of Gander. Now, when we return, hey, speaking of human rights, in this country, we've got a Canadian Museum of Human Rights. In fact, like a real deal. We have the Canadian Museum of Human Rights, and they're under fire after opening up a new exhibit. We're going to tell you why this museum is under fire when we return. Let's do Center.
Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Makos Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Makos Show. Now, did you know that Canada, we've got a museum called the Canadian Museum for Human Rights? We've got a human rights museum in this country, and they've just unveiled their newest exhibit. It is getting a lot of attention. The exhibit is called Palestine Uprooted, Nakba Past and Present. It explores the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Exhibit says it's trying to shine a light about the events that transpired, but many people are saying it's sending another message instead. Let's head over now to Terry Newman, senior opinion editor and columnist for the National Post. One of her latest pieces in the paper, Is Anyone Responsible for the Nakba's Exhibit and its Anti-Zionist Propaganda? Terry, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
What can you listen? I think we need some explaining here. I think we need to talk about, this event that this exhibit is talking about. For someone who has no knowledge of any of this, how would you quickly get them up to speed?
Well, to get people quickly up to speed, the best thing to understand is that for a long time, Jewish groups were expressing concern that it would be imbalanced, that there wouldn't be history provided behind this museum, and this is what we found. So basically, the museum's content advisory committee are very hardline anti-Zionist people, and in putting together the museum, they have framed it on the website that people will be looking at Palestinian history, culture, a whole bunch of other things. Now, this is since the museum has also said that it wasn't at the same time interested in historical retrospective. But what you will find if you go to the museum's website, you don't even have to visit the museum. You will find that it launches into the Nakba, makes it suggest that it makes it sound like Israelis came in and just started scooping people out of there. It completely leaves out any mention of the Arab War, which was basically launched to attack Israel upon its creation and inception. And there were Palestinian militias involved in that as well. It also does not mention Hamas.
Okay, and why is that important? Why is that leaving out Hamas? Why is that a big key here?
Well, it's a big key because Hamas is in Gaza. It's an organization that was created by the Muslim Brotherhood. It's an arm of the Muslim Brotherhood, and it does not want an independent. It did not want an independent democratic Palestine. They met in 1993. In Philadelphia, and this is a wiretapped meeting that people can access. It was used to persecute the Muslim Brotherhood for funding in the United States, and it says basically that they were unhappy with Arafat. We need to stop this from happening. We need to basically stop Israel from existing. All of these things, and Hamas members were there.
Terry, can I just ask you, because looking at Palestinian culture and history, I can see that as a noble effort and something that a museum should tackle. But what have they done here? It sounds like perhaps what's been done here, it's been very one-sided. But why do you think that the Canadian Museum of Human Rights has erred in the way they're trying to do that?
That's a really good question. I think as the responsibility of the museum, I can't speak to their personal motivations because I don't have access to them, but I can say that it should be the responsibility of a museum to have accurate historical information and context, especially when your exhibit then leads into the following exhibit about Jews. immediately, I guess, in the placement of the museum. Why they did it, I don't know. But it is. If a museum cannot provide accurate historical information, and the information that they provide will actually create a distorted view of what happened to Palestinians, sure, we should talk about the displacement, but you cannot talk about the displacement of Palestinians without talking about the war launched to destroy Israel.
So what I think the opening of this exhibit has caused headaches for the government. Mark Miller, Heritage Minister, he's the cabinet minister who was responsible for federal funding for this museum. He's made some statements expressing, I don't know how you would put it, but he is seeming unhappiness or unease with how this exhibit portrays things, and he's a minister. But I've also seen liberal MPs do promotional videos for the exhibit, and people like Anthony Housefather in Montreal have some pointed words, some criticism for the exhibit. So is this causing some issues for the government?
It is. It should be causing issues. I'm not sure how much it's causing for their base or anything like this. Mark Miller did say something about it being regrettable that Hamas wasn't mentioned, but that misses the point completely. Again, the context is that any displacement of Palestinians was a result following the war, and this was a very complicated thing, and this wasn't a passive victim thing. And if he doesn't understand, despite being asked many questions about this from journalists and Jewish groups, that this context needs to be provided, and if not, it will cause hate for Jews in Canada, because most Jews in Canada support Israel, then I'm not really sure how to help them at this point.
You asked the question, so your piece, the headline of your piece, right, is anyone responsible, right, for this exhibit? And I'm just wondering, this is a real deal Canadian museum with a board of directors and people that are responsible for these exhibits and ministers and that kind of stuff. I mean, what I'm failing to grasp here is you have an exhibit like this that has become so quickly contentious. Where along the chain? Why didn't anyone speak up? Why wasn't anything done to maybe, again, try and present a more fully featured or trying to highlight all of these aspects instead of a single-sided view?
Well, I'm guessing because the museum's CEO, Isha Khan, who is responsible for the museum and responsible to make sure that the curator is doing something like this, has chosen not to do it, has framed this as it's not going to be a historical retrospective, but she has failed in that point. And Mark Miller, who is, the museum is under his purview, it's a Canadian taxpayer-funded museum, has also failed because it has been brought to his attention. And Mark Carney as well. A personal letter was sent to Mark Carney from the Israeli ambassador out of concern about the museum, which the Post was informed he did not respond to until after a week, which is why I wrote my previous piece. So I'm not sure if this is have you seen the demographics of my writing situation? I don't know what their motivations are, but I think at this point, before this museum goes on running for over 2 years, which is slated to do, somebody needs to take responsibility.
Is there any indication that some changes will be made? Has anyone said anything that they're going to revisit maybe some of the ways things are presented or some of the language used at all?
I'm not sure. It's possible. I haven't checked in the last day or so, but did you see anything? I didn't see anything.
I haven't either, but I'm just wondering if there's been any sort of movement on the front.
No.
Okay, Terry, listen, we'll leave it there. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Elias.
That's Terry Newman, senior opinion editor, columnist over at the National Post. When we return on the Elias Makos Show, you're going to hear from a gentleman named Eric Lombardi. He joined us yesterday when we did a national edition of this show for Canada Day, and he's an interesting fellow. He's running to be leader of the Ontario Liberal Party. One of the reasons we had him on is because I think he had a message that goes far beyond Ontario to a whole bunch of the people in this country. And he's running for the leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party, but he says that party, that Ontario Liberal Party, isn't liberal at all. So we're going to talk to him about that. You're going to hear our interview with him on that coming up next.
Missed something?
Subscribe to the Elias Makos Show podcast to catch up.
Available on iHeartRadio and wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, when we return, we're going to re-air an interview that we did yesterday with a gentleman named Eric Lombardi. I think he's a fascinating fellow. He's currently running for the leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party. But he says something that I've been saying for a while, or I feel like our current slate of liberal parties in the country, they're not very liberal. So we're going to talk to him about that, why he wants to lead one of the biggest liberal parties of the country when he believes the party's not all that liberal. You're going to hear that interview next.
Listen, and you're there for heart-wrenching knockouts,
World's biggest stage,
and breathtaking triumph. 2026 FIFA World Cup, the knockout stage. Every match, every moment. Listen on TSN Radio. Join the Globe on the road to the July 19th final. 2026 FIFA World Cup. Stream it all live on TSN Radio. Available on iHeartRadio.
Now trending, the latest in lifestyle with Andrea Elias and Orla Johannes.
Hi, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Orla.
This week, tennis participation in Canada is surging. The CEO of Tennis Canada, Gavin Zib, will join us.
And we'll take a look at some of the most pet-friendly places in Montreal, from restaurants to cafes, parks and businesses.
Now trending, Sunday afternoon at 2 on CJAD 800.
The Elias Makos Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Makos Show, and I want to re-air something that we did yesterday. We interviewed a gentleman named Eric Lombardi. He's a candidate for the Ontario Liberal Party. Now, yesterday we did a national edition of the show. It was all the way from went out to BC, was all throughout Ontario, and of course here in our home market of Montreal. And I wanted to speak to Eric Lombardi because he's been saying some things as he runs for leadership of the Ontario Liberal Party that truly do speak to me. You know, he says liberal parties across the country need to reconnect with the core principles of liberalism. I tell you, I've said this over the last few years, and when I say it at times, people look at me like I'm from Mars, right? And there are some core principles of liberalism, like economic growth, individual opportunity, and pragmatic government that I think have been lost by some, if not all, liberal parties in this country. So when I hear someone who's running for leadership of a liberal party in the country saying the same thing, I tell you what, he has my full attention. So let's listen to a bit of that interview now. And I asked him right off the top, what's his take on liberal parties in this country not being truly liberal?
Well, I think people look at liberalism for the traits that it says to espouse. Tolerance, kindness, open-mindedness, resiliency, and all of these things are important traits of liberalism. But ultimately, liberal politics is about how we, people who are diverse, who come from different backgrounds or faiths, etc., ultimately agree to be governed under a rule of law that we see as fair, that respects our values, and ultimately leads us to the contract of building towards a future together. And I do think that liberal parties, especially in this country, while we've made incredible advancements, especially on social policy, etc., we've lost some of the core ethos of liberalism from which we derive our namesake. And, by that I mean the belief in the individual and seeing people as individuals rather than, stakeholder groups or the various identities that make up parts of who we are. The belief in merit, the belief in long-term consistent institutions that enable us to be free from corruption and capable of building a material well-being that I think matters. And the core promise of liberalism is that ability to work together in democracy to deliver rising living standards for people as its core promise. And I think sometimes we've forgotten that has to be the focus of our mandate.
When and how did this happen, Eric? When did Canada's liberal parties, federally, provincially, go off the rails on liberalism?
I don't think they've gone off the rails entirely, and there are lots of threads of this, especially right now when we're talking about building a bigger country, especially with Mark Carney. But I think we always go through these cycles and we always find our way back, because at the end of the day, when we have divisions, we can look to the basic principles on which I think this country is founded, and that means small L liberalism, to reorient where we need to go. And I really do think that realignment is happening. I do think that we came off, especially in the 1990s and 2000s, an era of broader prosperity that allowed us to start thinking and focusing on issues that were not always just the pocketbook items of our economy. And that enabled us as liberals to kind of indulge a lot of luxury beliefs and focuses. And I think now that we see that our country has in some ways declined in development, our ability to deliver infrastructure, the ability to give excellence in public services, now we need to look back to the liberal principles, especially around the economy, and reorient ourselves back to the focus on rising material well-being.
Sometimes when I talk to liberals and I ask them about liberalism and I say, well, what should a liberal represent? And I hear them, they answer that question to me. What they're actually describing is a progressive. And I wonder if you think too many people in liberal parties believe progressive and liberal are synonyms.
I think that is a challenge. And I also think that, for me in particular, I identify as a liberal. And sometimes that means I have progressive values. But more often than not, I think what we focus on is what are the problems, what are the pragmatic solutions, and how do we address them in a way that helps the public understand what it means to move a certain direction. And whether that direction is progressive or even sometimes more traditional, what we have to always remember is that we are able to make these decisions in a free democracy. And I personally think focus on systems rather than sometimes emotions of politics. And that, to me, is what should guide liberalism going forward.
We're with Eric Lombardi. He's a candidate for the Ontario Liberal Party leadership, and we're talking about liberalism and how many liberal parties, provincially, federally in this country, have veered off the path of liberalism. So, Eric, listen, there's a lot of criticism of you running for the leadership of the Liberal Party and some of the ideas that you're throwing out there to the Ontario Liberal Party. What do you make of the criticism? Where do you think it's coming from?
Well, broadly speaking, I think the criticism is a good sign that I'm doing something right. It's very hard to affect change. And when you are being interpreted as a real threat to some of the status quo thinking that exists, particularly within my party, you are going to attract criticism. And that is far preferable than not attracting any attention at all, frankly. And so, to me, the criticism is just part of free debate in our democracy. I'm being told in some ways that, I'm being attractive to conservatives, and a lot of conservatives like me. Well, I believe that to win the next government and defeat Doug Ford, which I think has become very tired, and how Ontario is being governed, then I'm going to have to look to conservatives and say, do you know what? You voted for this person last time, but here's a better picture for the province that I can offer you that's based on clear, pragmatic views of the economy, the role of markets, the role of fair taxation, and the role of aspiration and entrepreneurialism, and all these things that I think are really important to the future of the province. And so if that means people from the Conservative Party like me, well, welcome to the team. If that also means many New Democrats who like my ability to explain complex topics or even take unconventional positions sometimes, well, welcome to the team. I want to build a grand coalition of people who are ready for something different in this province, and that work is just getting started.
In the minute or so that we have left, I want to talk about that because you have garnered some support by some people that may have supported the Conservatives before, and you're getting hit over that. And like some people are calling you're just some sort of tech bro that wants to, advocate for like tech bro positions. I hear all types of stuff that's thrown at you. So how do you respond to that? And people who view that there are conservatives that support your ideas, especially when it comes to liberalism, and view that as a bad thing?
Well, I kind of find this tech bro accusation funny because it's so meaningless, right? My background was in nanotechnology engineering, like semiconductors. I really don't think that is a super scary background. Yes, I've been working in technology, but for several last few years, I've been helping the credit union system really invest in becoming a more competitive platform for financial services competition. Like, whoa, scary, right? So I think once people get to know me, they'll see how shallow a lot of these accusations are. And what I'm going to be focused on is delivering the most robust agenda this province has seen in decades. And so stay tuned, because we're going to own the future together.
I got like 10 seconds for you on this one, but are there people inside the Ontario Liberal Party like playing dirty to make sure your messaging doesn't get through?
I don't think there's such thing as playing dirty or really playing fair. People are playing to compete, and I have to be aware of that. And so I am eyes wide open about the competition and the challenges to my message, and my focus is overcoming that.
That's Eric Lombardi. Is running for the Ontario Liberal Party leadership. And I tell you what, he's a great follow on Twitter, on X, on social media. If you're someone that's voted Liberal your whole life, but you feel like right now Liberal parties aren't the same, they don't do the same things or enact the same types of policies they used to, he is certainly a must follow and preaching to that choir. When we return on the Elias Makos Show, it's going to be all fun for the last segment of the show. We're going to talk about fireworks and hot dogs.
Time is valuable.
Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Makos Show.
On News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
The Voice. Listen. And you're there. For heart-wrenching knockouts.
The world's biggest stage.
And breathtaking triumph. 2026 FIFA World Cup. The knockout stage. Every match, every moment. Listen on TSN Radio. Join the globe on the road to the July 19th final. 2026 FIFA World Cup. Stream it all live on TSN Radio. Available on iHeartRadio. Montreal.
I said we'd have good news for you, but I'm also going to counter the Debbie Downers by giving you some good news. I got a listener, okay? And the listener said a lot, because I said we're going to talk about fireworks and hot dogs. What could be more fun than fireworks and hot dogs to wrap up a show? And I had Debbie Downer, his name is Peter Downer, a Peter Poo-Poo. Sorry, Peter. I love you, Peter. Peter writes this. Elias, when you talk about fireworks, I hope you mention the air, the noise, the soil, the water pollution, and not to mention the fire risks they create and the fact that they're on the way out. That's from Peter. What a poo-poo. Thumbs down. Double thumbs down from Andrew in the control room. Max, I think, is a thumbs down as well. Are you right? You're a thumbs down? Okay. Good to know. Now, ladies and gentlemen, tonight marks the 40th edition of our big international fireworks competition. We've been at it for 40 years with the international fireworks the Lotto Quebec International Fireworks Competition, and it's going to be up and running. They've got 8 shows over the next 8 weeks or so, and it starts tonight. There are going to be 6 countries competing, by the way. Tonight, it's a total celebration. It's a smorgasbord 40th anniversary celebration. So a country isn't competing tonight. And ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the best places to watch the fireworks competition. Of course, Jacques Cartier Bridge will be shut down, so you can go onto the bridge and get a tremendous view from there. I should point this out. I used to live on Vigier for 4 years. It was like 10-minute walk from the station. And I lived on Vigier, and we would always take a walk along Vigier towards Notre Dame, just to the base of the bridge. And there's a great viewing angle from there. So whether you go to La Ronde and you pay big bucks to watch the fireworks competition, or you make it a free event on the bridge or parts nearby, you can start enjoying the spectacular fireworks competition with the booms and the pops and, yes, loud noise, but it's a sight to be seen. So I'm celebrating fireworks today and the 40th edition of our Lotto Quebec International Fireworks Competition. Who is competing this year? Well, here are the entrants, the 6 countries. Hungary, July 9th. Italy, July 12th. China, July 16th. Canada. Oh, yeah, put us on the board. Canada is on July 23rd. Then you've got the United States of America on July 26th. And then Australia will be the final country competing on July 30th. They're going to wrap up the festival on August 6th with what they call Homage to Legends. So 8 shows, 6 of them countries competing, and it all begins tonight. I know some of you want it all replaced with drones, and the drones look good. I say we have another festival, and we do the drone festival, but keep those fireworks for a thing like this, like an international competition. It's still fun and exhilarating and spectacular in a way the drones are not. They're also spectacular, but it's a different type of a spectacular affair. All right, now let's talk about hot dogs. Because you know what, July 4th, hey, our American listeners, shout out to our border state listeners, upstate Vermont and upstate New York that listen to us. You're going to be celebrating 250 years of America. With that in mind, July 4th is the big hot dog eating competition. And there are people who are trying to be Debbie Downers, Peter Poo-Poos on the lowly hot dog. I think we need to celebrate the hot dog, especially at a time of year like this. I know I saw another story out of The Guardian. What's really in a hot dog? It's a highly processed food. Ladies and gentlemen, as long as you're not eating, 40 a day, every day, just enjoy life and enjoy that hot dog. And I got thumbs downs to the poo-pooers of the fireworks, but I want to see some thumbs up here. Behind the glass, in the control room, Max and Andrew.
Yes, sir.
Hot dogs, we're all on Team Yay, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're all on Team Yay. Okay. We had a discussion earlier on, before the show even started, about the best way to prepare a hot dog. Andrew, you're the one who threw this question at me. What'd you throw at me?
All right, grab your pen and paper.
Yeah, writing it
So you
down.
want to boil this hot dog for about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay,
all right?
yeah.
Get it nice and soft on the inside. Then get your air fryer. If you don't have an air fryer yet, go buy one. And then you air fry this thing for another about 3 minutes. And oh my gosh, do you have a good hot dog? I don't care what's in the hot dog. It tastes good.
What temperature is the air fryer?
Oh, I cranked that thing. It's at 375. It's as high as it goes.
Okay, so you said 3 minutes in boiling water.
Yep.
And then how many minutes in the air fryer?
I do about 3. I like my dogs a little crispier, so that's my personal preference.
Well, I tell you what, I always find putting a hot dog on a barbecue, I think it's a bit of a crime. It always burns out the outside, and I don't think it tastes good. I'd rather just boiled, but I want to try this air fryer magic.
It does not burn it. You have to try it.
Now, I also told this to you guys. I'm going to share this with the listeners. I did something that I've never done before. I bought the Costco, I bought the package of Costco hot dogs that are bun size. So it's the pleasure of the Costco hot dog, but in a much more manageable form factor. And they're delicious. Max, your last 2 words here, your 2 cents on hot dogs?
Approved. Short and sweet.
That's done. You boil? You fry? What do you do?
Boil.
Boil those suckers.
Yes.
And the highlight here, okay, put them in the air fryer after you boil them. But make sure you take that hot dog and you put it in a bun that's been slathered in butter and grilled in a pan. And then you've got the best hot dog with onions and relish and mustard. No ketchups. Are we any ketchups here?
Yeah, I'm a ketchuper, but I would prefer onions and all of that. But for the most part, I just want my quick dog.
My son,
ketchup on it.
I tell you what, my son, he's 2 years old. That's his palate. He loves ketchup on a hot dog. All right, we're gonna wrap up the Elias. Thanks, fellas. We're gonna wrap up the Elias Makos Show. Elias Makos Show next. Pardon me, with a second look at the Big Five.
This article makes it look like Hydro-Quebec is going into your house, and if you have a hot tub, they're going to charge you more for the hot tub. That's not the case. You explained it well, Elias, here. This is about usage, total consumption. So if you want to run 3 hot tubs, but no washing machine, you can do it. Right? But run them well. Look, honestly, I think some conservative views on here and monitoring can get people below this limit. I think it's actually a good encouragement.
Hydro-Quebec's at it again. They want to charge the biggest consumers of electricity in the province, about 200,000 households that use double the average. Think about people with big mansions and hot tubs and pools and the like. They want to charge them more. We tackled that on the Big Five at 9:05. So if you missed it, go to our website, go to the iHeartRadio app, go to any podcast app, subscribe, like, follow the Big Five podcast, and listen to it right now. And I have a question on the text line. Elias, why do you call it the Big Five when there's just three of you? Well, if you've listened to the show, I've mentioned it time and time again. It's called the Big Five because we try and get to 5 topics every morning. 5 big stories, thus the Big Five. Don't always get to 5, but that's what we try and do. All right, I have to leave it there. Maxim Godot producing this one. Andrew Malik in for Jay Farrar doing tremendous work behind the scenes to get us there. Thank you so much, fellas, and we'll be back at it again on Friday.
You're listening to the Voice of Montreal.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
An iHeartRadio station.
Listen, and you're there for heart-wrenching knockouts.
The world's biggest stage.
And breathtaking triumph. 2026 FIFA World Cup. The knockout stage. Every match, every moment. Listen on TSN Radio. Join the globe on the road to the July 19th final. 2026 FIFA World Cup. Stream it all live on TSN Radio. Available on iHeartRadio.